Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Olson with the Los Angeles Times. Thanks so much for being here today. Please join me now in welcoming from the movie screenwriter Thomas Bidegain, director and co-screenwriter Jacques Audiard, and star and producer of the film John C. Reilly.
Go, I just got here. So it's weird, right? To have seen a movie and then all of a sudden the person's there in front of you. Even while the trailers are still rolling. There was a lot to digest there. So just feel free to just, take a moment. We'll talk among ourselves while you process what just happened.
Well, John, I'll start with a question for you. Simply, what was it about the book by Patrick DeWitt that, excited you, that spoke to you, and made you want to get involved with this project?
Well, my wife, Allison Dickey, is the one that actually was working with Patrick DeWitt on an independent film called Terry that I was also in. But she asked him if he had any other writing, and he had this manuscript before it had been published. And it's a startling piece of writing. It right away it jumps out at you as a very filmic story, and then the emotional vulnerability of the characters in it, especially Eli, who's like the primary narrator kind of in the book anyway. I don't know, it's just, I think it's amazing that these guys murder. There's a large body count in the movie, but by the end of it, you still feel these sympathetic feelings for them. And I think that's because of that vulnerability that is in the book and Jacques put in the film as well. And
now tell me about that how did you and Allison kind of decide to go to Jacques? I mean, he is a Palme d'Or winner, one of the most celebrated filmmakers in the world, but known for French contemporary urban crime dramas, which maybe doesn't make you think of a period Western set in the United States.
Well, I feel bad talking so much with Jacques sitting here. He came all the way from France to be here.
We're getting there.
Jacques Audiard. Look, we promised Pat DeWitt that because Pat is our friend too, we promised him we would get the best people we could possibly get and make the best film possible out of your book. And Jacques was, someone immediately, as soon as we realized he might be interested, it was like, we just couldn't believe how lucky we were, because that's what we were looking for, to put the story in the capable hands of someone who is going to take it and make a really personal story out of it. We weren't interested in making another kind of cliched Western, or there's no reason to make a Western for a Western's sake, There's plenty of them out there, great ones. Jacques made a personal film out of this material, and that's all of our favorite films are like that.
And Jacques, let me ask you, what was it that appealed to you about the book? What spoke to you about it?
Excuse me, I speak French because I'm French.
I'll translate because I'm French.
Pourquoi j'ai aimé le Alors deux choses. C'est la première fois de ma vie qu'on m'apporte un projet que je vais réaliser.
It is the first time in my professional life that someone brings a project to me and that I make it.
Normalement, c'est moi qui trouve le livre.
Normally, I'm the one who find the book.
Qui est l'idée.
I got the ideas.
Et j'ai adoré ça en fait.
And I loved it.
C'est plus simple.
It's much more simple.
Et donc, enfin simple. Alors moi c'est effectivement. Enfin le livre de Patrick m'a enchanté. Je trouve que c'est une histoire picaresque.
I really love the book. It's a great story, but
que contrairement, alors ça peut paraître bizarre, c'est que moi j'y vois plus. Moi je suis français, je suis européen, donc le western, ça n'est pas mon histoire.
Well, I'm French, I'm European, and so Western definitely is not my history.
Donc je suis obligé de le prendre comme un film d'époque.
So for me, it's just a period piece. It happens during the gold rush.
Donc alors effectivement, il y a des hommes à cheval avec des chapeaux et des
Of
revolvers.
course, you see men riding horses, wearing hats and guns. But
Mais pour moi, c'est un film d'époque.
it's just a period piece. That's what they did at that time.
Et avec Tom, ce qui nous a immédiatement, ce sur quoi on s'est vraiment, ce qui nous a intéressé dans le roman de DeWitt, c'est que c'était plus probablement un conte qu'un western.
So with Tom, the brilliant screenwriter that I work with, then what we liked about it, no, it was we liked the fairy tale quality about it. There's something that really appealed to us, and so it's maybe that and the comedy, and there's something more than a western about it.
En littérature, on appellerait ça un roman de formation.
Yes, in literature, we will call that a coming of age story. That's really what we thought it was.
Because I've heard in some other Q&As you talk about the fact that at first you were skeptical about making a Western. You weren't really sure that the world needed another Western. How did you answer that question for yourself? What sort of convinced you to do it?
Ah non, j'ai pas du tout. Je pense que le monde n'a pas besoin forcément d'un western.
No, I don't think the world needs another western. But
On peut avoir besoin d'autre chose.
maybe they need something else.
Mais c'est vrai que le western est un genre incontournable dans l'histoire du cinéma. Ça,
But it's really one of the main genres in the
c'est vraiment une
history of
banalité de le dire.
films, you know.
And
Yeah, it's funny because people like this idea of a Western. Is it a Western? Is it a new kind of Western? You know, like we weren't thinking that way at all. I don't think when we were working, I don't recall ever talking about what kind of Western are we making. Like, I was just consumed with my relationship with my brother, and it just so happened we were on horses and we had guns, but it wasn't like, this is the rootinest, tootinest Western ever made. You know, like, we were, you know, it has much to do with, like, you know, Treasure of the Sierra Madre or Night of the Hunter. You know, Jacques and Tom have both, you know, noted that one. So, yeah, we were looking to make something original.
Yes, we don't wake up thinking we're going to subvert the genre. You know, it's not really what we think. It's really the idea is that those two brothers, they are like children. It's really that they are like 12-year-old, and they've been having that ongoing conversation for so long. Now they're in their 40s, and they keep on, you know.
C'est un petit peu comme toi et moi.
It's like us.
well, I have to say, it's one thing I feel I've never thought about before with a Western is just how much, like riding on horseback through the West, the American West, it provides you a lot of time to just talk to each other. That it takes a while. And so that element of the movie, that there is so much just talking in the movie on horseback, is that something that's from the book, or did you kind of discover that as you were working?
Yeah, the book, it's a lot of dialogues. A lot of dialogues.
C'est un petit peu, moi, ça me faisait penser à des romans, enfin des œuvres comme ça, littéraires français, du XVIIIe siècle, comme Jacques le Fataliste et son maître,
It made me thought of
où ça n'arrête pas de parler.
Of French books from the 18th century that would be, the book that would be just dialogues and, you know, talking about many things, like Jacques the Fatalist. And so yes, it's really that actually in the adaptation process we reduced the dialogues a lot because there's so much in the book.
Yeah, it's amazing how much talking you do when you don't have a phone. Like, it's either the horse you talk to or the person you're with. Yeah, and I talk to that horse a lot in Spanish.
Pollito.
Spanish horse, yeah.
And can you talk a little bit more about the adaptation process? In particular, the characters played by Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed, Morris and Warm, that the two of you really expanded that relationship and made that section of the film much bigger than it is in the book. And what was maybe the thinking behind that?
Well, okay. In the book, the characters of Warm and Morris are not as developed as they are here because the book is really about the brothers wandering around and talking all the time, and we needed more tension for the film, and so that's how we come up with the idea that there would be two two separate couples, two different couples, and they will reunite at one point. And also one of the big difference with Worm's character in the book, it's that he has the formula for the gold, but doesn't have the whole idea of the utopia that he has, that he will create a new society. It's not there. It's not in the books. It's something we come up with because that adds another layer to the story. It's the guy who has an idea. It's not just about the gold and the money.
And John, can you talk about your chemistry with Joaquin? I mean, the two of you were so terrific in the movie together. What was it like working with him, and maybe how did the two of you kind of build that up?
Yeah, we'd met a couple times before. We had a mutual friend, Paul Anderson. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll tell him that happened.
Paul Thomas en personne.
Yeah. But we didn't really know each other, just met briefly, and I was so pleased when Jacques decided to cast him as my brother, because I think no one does what Joaquin does. I mean, to me, in some ways it's like, watching a wild animal on one of those nature cams. You're like, what is it going to do now? Like, he's really that, and that's a real accomplishment given how much preparation and planning and all that goes into filmmaking, to be able to be that alive. Anyway, so as you could probably guess, not someone who wanted to sit down and like tell his whole life story to me and like get to know each other that way. So I just realized, like, these guys have spent every sunrise and sunset together since they were 10 years old and they killed their father. And that's an intense bond, that's a lot of time. So we basically just started spending all of our time together. It was as simple as that. And then, just through osmosis almost, the relationship between us became, by the end of the shooting, a lot like the relationship of Eli and Charlie, minus the murder, but the same attention with each other. We were just side by side, shoulder to shoulder, living together, driving to work together, cooking for each other, and it was like we went all in. And I hope it comes across in the movie anyway. But
moi, je trouve qu'il faut vraiment que les acteurs aient énormément de talent.
Actors must have a lot of talent.
Pour penser que Joaquin et John soient frères.
So that's how you see that how much talent they have, is that you can end up thinking that they actually are brothers.
Parce que je vois pas comment Joaquin, parce que je vois quelle mère aurait pu faire les deux.
What kind of mother would have had two kids like that?
Ça c'est du talent. Ça c'est du
talent. He reminds me of my younger brother a little bit, honestly.
That's talent right there.
I know, Jacques, I know you've said that part of the appeal of the project for you was working with American actors like John and Joaquin. What was it that you got from that? Did you sort of learn the things you were hoping to learn by taking on the project?
Oui.
Yes.
Non, mais c'est comment je sais pas comment dire ça simplement.
I don't know how to say that in simple words.
Parce que c'est très, pour moi comme réalisateur français, c'est vraiment une autre approche.
It's really a different way of working.
C'est que comment je parle de toi comme si tu n'étais pas là.
I talk about John like if he wasn't here.
C'est-à-dire que comment il y a okay, great. Et c'est comment il y a une très grosse il y a un gros travail avant.
There's a huge work of preparation.
Et quand alors ça va être très différent selon que ce soit John. Joaquin, je sais pas s'il y a du travail avant.
John or Joaquin.
Joaquin, je sais pas s'il y a du travail, mais disons Jake.
Or Jake.
Ils arrivent et c'est très comme ça existe tout de suite très
fort. They come and the character really exists. From the start, it's really there.
Quand je travaille en France, normalement, je répète beaucoup avec eux.
I have to rehearse a lot with the actors.
Donc en fait, voilà, c'est que je les amène progressivement à jouer, mais tandis que
bring them toward the character. Here, the character is already here.
Que ce soit que ce soit John, Jake, Reese ou
Joaquin,
c'est comme s'ils étaient un peu propriétaires des personnages.
Yeah, they own their character. It's really.
C'est pas. Je trouve que pour moi c'est la grosse différence en fait.
For me, it's a big difference. Yes.
Yeah, you have to bring something, right? Be ready to go. But at the same time, you have to adapt to the director and find something, find a way of being.
Mais tu trouves pas, John, ce que je dis sur le fait que
Don't you think it's true what I
We
say?
never talked like this
Non,
during the
jamais.
movie, by the way.
No,
This is
sorry.
fascinating.
Non mais, non mais sur le fait que j'ai le sentiment que vous étiez les propriétaires des personnages
I really had
pour
the
un
feeling
moment.
that you owned the character for a while.
Well, I had been
time
reading
of-
that book for years and years and years at that point, but I think, you know what? I felt a kinship to this character the first time I read the book. It was almost like Patrick had been thinking of me or something, but he hadn't been. He didn't know me then. But I don't know. It was one of those things that really felt right away like,
J'ai l'impression
I
qu'avec
know how that
avec
feels.
les acteurs américains, comment vous êtes responsable du rôle du personnage, tandis qu'avec les acteurs français, j'ai l'impression moi d'être toujours responsable du rôle.
Okay, with American
So
actors, I feel like the character is your responsibility, and when I will shoot with French actor, I feel it's my responsibility.
Oh, interesting. Well, thanks for sharing the responsibility with me on this one.
And Jacques, I want to be sure to ask about the about the opening shootout. That I've never seen a shootout done quite like that, and maybe how the two of you sort of thought of that, and then simply how did you do it? Like how did you create those images? Or is that practically done?
Mais comment il suffit d'avoir l'idée de le filmer?
Well, all it takes is one ID and a camera. And, there's no light.
Non, c'est assez facile ça.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
Vous pouvez franchement le faire chez vous. Hein.
And you can do that at home.
But yeah, it is that black powder in those guns. That is exactly what. It's not some special effect. That's what happens when you shoot a gun with black powder and a slug in it. It goes blam.
Yeah.
Et ça, c'est l'idée de. C'est ce que je vous disais tout à l'heure.
That's what I was saying earlier.
C'est le conte,
It's-
c'est une imagerie de conte.
Once you have the idea that it's a fairy tale, as much as it is a western, then you can produce that kind of images.
C'est des images presque pour moi presque pour enfants.
Yeah, those are images for children, like a book of image.
Because the way the movie unfolds, it continually surprises you as you're watching it. And was that something that was hard to sort of hold on to from the book, or how did you kind of make the story so continually surprising?
On a énormément de talent.
We have a lot of talent. And we work a lot. No, but that's the rule. That's really the rule when you're a screenwriter. It's the thing is things are not what they appear to be. It's really the rule number one, and that's what we were trying to do. And even the film is like that. You think it's a western, and then it's more like a fairy tale. Maybe it's like a comedy, and it keeps on evolving as it goes.
And John, is it a challenge for you in your performance to sort of capture those changes, to have it be grittier at first, then funnier for a bit, then it becomes more like a fable, and like those changes, those shifts seem like they'd be hard to capture?
Yeah, it's funny to talk now that the movie's done and it's this thing outside of us that we're all looking at together rather than something I was inside of, But when you're inside of it every day, I wasn't thinking about fables and westerns and I was just thinking about like Joaquin, and then of course, just to double back on this thing of the ownership of the character, how Jacques was saying, like in France, it's the director's responsibility to make a character as opposed to Americans coming in kind of with ownership of the character or living it already. But that said, we would show up and at least my version of the job is as a sort of loyal soldier. Like you come in feeling like that person, that character, and then it's like, and what are we going to do with it? And you end up really depending a lot on a director, especially one as in tune as Jacques. But in terms of the changes of tone and stuff like that, The book is like that, and I think life is like that. Like I like it when things are really contradictory, because that's how my life is. You know, like I often you have great moments of joy, and then you'll think about some sad thing, or someone cracks a joke at a funeral. You know, like that's life. You know, that's being honest about things. Yeah, and then also we shot this movie out of order a lot, so I was especially in Jacques' hands, because you try to keep track of it, and you look at the script. Okay, this was the thing, but we're before that, before the spider, or after spider, and then and then you just you do your best, but then it's really up to Jacques, who's keeping the overview of the whole thing going. And I felt in such amazingly capable hands. It's been such a thrill to be part of this next chapter for Jacques, in this first English language movie. Because anyway.
And we have time for a few questions from the audience. Yep, right over there.
Wonderful film, wonderful performance. Yes. Very dirty a lot of the time in the movie. I'm curious how much effort went into making the clothes and the face and hair look period appropriate, filthy, and was that bothersome to the audience?
And the question has to do with the fact that you looked very dirty throughout the movie, and so what kind of effort went into the costumes and the look of the movie?
Well, it's funny because at some point, I realized they were not washing my clothes at all. At all. And I was like, it's amazing. How do they reapply the dirt every day? And then I was like, this is the same dirt. I wiped my hand on there yesterday. Milena Canonera, the amazing Italian costume designer who did some of Kubrick's films, and anyway, she's just a master, and I don't know. I felt too clean when I was not at work when I was making this movie. I got so used to that sheen of grime. But I later found out that they were actually cleaning the costume, but not laundering it. I was like, how is it that we're keeping this hygienic? Once I realized that it wasn't being washed, they're like, oh, we have vodka, and we spray vodka on the inside of the clothes. And this big jug of cheap vodka in the costume trailer, like, oh, okay.
And
that's how they keep it from stinking to a high heaven.
Jacques, do you want to say anything about working with Milena Canonera?
Je trouve que déjà, John en a très très bien parlé.
John speaks very well about it.
C'est comment très franchement, je ne pensais pas qu'elle était accessible.
I didn't think I could access
oui,
her.
Qu'elle était,
That she would be available. That I could get to her.
C'est une sorte de mythe.
For us, it's like a myth.
Elle a fait les Kubrick.
She worked with Stanley Kubrick.
Je ne sais pas combien elle a eu d'Oscars.
I don't know how many Oscars she has.
I believe it's 4.
4. Et donc voilà. Bon. Non mais voilà. Et en fait, c'est une petite Italienne absolument adorable, charmante.
Small Italian girl, a lady that was absolutely charming.
Qui, je pense, a cessé de dormir il y a 50 ans.
And I think she stopped sleeping 50 years ago.
C'est un truc
Just
incroyable.
go and go and go.
Elle est brillantissime.
She's the smartest. And I loved working with her.
And we have time for another one? Yep, over there. And can you talk about the way that the movie does become the story of two couples? It's almost like two love stories in a way.
I don't know if it's two love stories, but it's some kind of love. Yeah, it's this love amongst men, and it's love amongst brothers, and also the Warm and Maurice, they share an idea, a utopia, the desire for a better world. So, and they all end up sharing that at the river. But I don't know. I don't know how you read that. Maybe it's love. Yes, I guess that's how you call it.
What else is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Love. There's also this beautiful thing that happens when the two couples intersect there at the river. I don't know. I find now watching the movie objectively, I find that stuff really moving because when you think Charlie and Eli have been pretty much them against the world for the last 30 years. And it's the first time you see them make a friend. The first time I've had any kind of intimate conversation with someone outside of Charlie ever, you know. So those firsts, when you see them on camera in a film, are
Je
always.
trouve ça très très beau. Comment on a beaucoup de mal à dire ça, l'amour entre hommes, entre frères.
It's very difficult to talk about the love between brothers or
C'est que
between
comme
men.
on a coupé une réplique. Dans
We
le
get
film.
we get one dialogue at the end. One line.
Où à la fin tu disais parce que tu es mon petit frère et je t'aime.
Yeah. It was at the campfire. Charlie has lost his arm, and he says, "You're ashamed of me," and he said, "Things have changed so much." And there was a line by Eli that will answer him and say, "No, nothing has changed. You're my little brother, and I love you."
Et qu'on l'a coupé parce que je trouvais
You
ça
have to cut
excessif.
it because it's just too
Mais
much.
très franchement, je vous en parle ce soir et je le regrette.
But now
They put it
I
in the
talk about
trailer,
it
by
tonight,
the
and
way.
I regret it.
And I think that's where we're going to have to wrap it up. So please, everyone, join me in thanking our guests
you.
tonight.
Hey,
Thomas
I really
Bidegain,
appreciate
Jacques
everyone
Audiard,
coming out
and
on
John C.
opening
Reilly.
weekend. It really, really makes a
Yeah,
difference.
it's good. That makes a
Thank you
difference.
very
for us.
much.
Great to be in California. Thank you.